All right, so we have to do some repairs to our shop AC again, because Mr. Cool is terrible at designing their stuff. Basically, we don't have enough material to reflare a end on there again because they have braided lines. So anyways, long story short, I'm going to cut this stream short. I was late because we were getting everything recovered and getting ready to swap the head out. So we're going to roll for about 30 minutes here, and then I'll cut this off just because we got to get the AC going, and it's nice out today and it's not blistering hot. So, and I also have Sean willing to stay and help out later than normal today. So anyways, if you guys haven't been on these streams yet before, you have to post a question on YouTube. We are multi-streaming, but YouTube only works with our bot. And you can ask questions by posting !Q in the in front of your question, and then it'll pick it up. So anyways, yeah. Long story short, if you guys are looking for AC units, stay away from the Mr. Cool DIY units because their quick connect fittings are a pain in the ass. And the problem is, even if you take the quick connects off and try to do a traditional flare, you've only got about this much of copper to work with if you want to get rid of the their quick connects, because that's what failed on the unit to begin with. So it developed a slow leak, and the system stopped cooling correctly. So we vacuumed everything down, recovered it, did all the fun stuff, put a flare on. Now they did finally send us out a new line set and head, which is different from the one we have. But I was like, I'd rather just fix this instead of dealing with these quick connect fittings leaking again, because the new set not only has one set of quick connects. I go to the outdoor, I think it's the condenser unit, so the outdoor unit. Not only do they have the quick connect there, but it's also a second set they've added, so the line set can be disconnected from the head. So now we have two sets of quick connects. So I will never be doing these self-installed pre-filled ones again. I was honestly, if you guys have ever looked into split units, it can be a little intimidating because you have to get a vacuum pump, which they're not that expensive. I have all this stuff now because this unit kept screwing up. And I will not be putting any of these quick connect ones in. And the thing that sucks is I have 3 of these. I have 2 of their 24K units, which are in the shop, and I have an 18,000 unit in my office here. And normally, if you have a bad flare, you can cut it off and put a new flare on. The problem is there's literally, I shit you not, like before we cut it as close as we could, so they have the quick connect soldered onto copper, but you only have about this much copper between where the braided line, so they use braided line sets. So they're more flexible. They have a braided line that goes to copper, and then about this much copper down to the quick connect. So you only have so much to work with. Normally on a traditional line set, you have a lot of copper to work with. So if you get a flare that's bad or fails or whatever, you can cut it off and put a new flare on with a flare tool. These units, you can't do that. The alternative is I could cut the flare off and try to use a swedging tool, which I do have. I just don't have the special solder. I believe it's a special silver solder, and solder another thing on there. But I'm getting to the point where I am just getting tired of it. So they did send us out finally. It took a long time to get it, to have them send us out a new head and a line set. And I was like, well, I'm going to put this away and put it on there later. So long story short, it's just been a pain in the ass. Like we noticed it started to slightly ice up, so we caught it really quick. But the thing is, when we put the flare on it, there was no leaks. We even put Nylog on there, pressurized it, used the leak test bubbles, everything looked great. And I guess it just isn't going to work. So it sucks. Yeah. So the Pioneer split units. Yeah. So the thing is, like, I should have just gone with the cheaper units. And that's what I'm going to do going forward. So if these die, and they're out of the warranty period, I'm just going to buy the standard, a standard unit that takes traditional copper line sets that are easy to fix. It's kind of how we talk about with the printers here, like Creality moving towards these printers with these proprietary connectors, that are hard to repair. This is the same kind of thing. So yeah, but if you are looking at a mini split unit, all you really need to install the ones that don't have the quick connects is basically a vacuum pump, and they can be had for about $150. basically you hook it all up, vacuum the lines down, release the refrigerant, and then it's good to go. I was intimidated by that, so I was like, I'm going to buy the DIY ones, not realizing that these quick connect fittings add multiple points of failure to the system, and that's exactly what failed. One of the O-rings developed a leak over time, and that's why the unit stopped working. So, yeah, hire a guy. I've called, people want almost $400 to $500 to just come out and look at it. I can buy a whole new 24,000 BTU unit for about $1,200. So, you know, they're so cheap that unless you're going to do it yourself, it's not really worth calling somebody out to fix, because you can easily spend more than the unit is actually worth. Yeah, so anyways, yeah, so that's what we're going to go do. So anyways, enough about my random crap here. I'm here to answer your guys' questions. So go ahead and put your question in the chat. So just type !Q in front of your question, and the bot will give you a confirmation. It'll pick it up, and it'll put it in my little questions thing here. And yeah, so anyways, we're going to put a new head unit in. I've got the unit. I've got the line set. I was just trying to be efficient by not having to change out a whole head unit. So I do have one update here. So I see somebody asking, David's asking about that Ender 7 LCD upgrade. I should be wrapping that up this week. I got a couple other things to test in terms of the LCD fitment. The preliminary test with the board are looking good, but just too much stuff going on here. I only got so many hours in the day, and, you know, doing repairs like this take away from my time. So, but anyways, I know we had a couple of people, if you guys are familiar with our you know, we are branching out into the smart home segment of things, you know, like our easy plugs that you can use with your printer to control your printer's power through Octoprint and Home Assistant. And then we also have our bulbs, which are what's in these lights behind me. And we had a couple of people asking about floodlights. So these are samples from the same manufacturer that makes the easy bulbs for us, that they sent them to me. These are ESP-based bulbs, and I will be working with these, and I'm hoping they can run basically the same firmware. It depends on what kind of board it is. This might just be a higher output version of the 9-watt bulbs we have. I believe these are either 11 or 13 watts. I got to look at the specs they sent me. But someone was asking about... asking us, a couple of you were asking about outdoor floodlights, smart floodlights that they could put in, and so we are working on this. I don't know if we're going to bring these to market yet or not, but these are very, very bright. So if I had my test cord here, I could show you, but it's packed away right now in my bin because I was working on other products. So anyways, all right, let's see what questions we got. So the already said the Ender 7 is still pending. Let's see. Andre is saying, I'm installing a carbon square tube for my X gantry. Okay, some people said it isn't a great idea because of twist or flex. That's something I should realistically be worried about. It's not something I've used, but I don't know why you would want to do that. I would probably stick with what's it called? I would probably stick with doing like just an aluminum extrusion or a rail, like a linear rail type thing. I don't know what printer you're putting out. I don't know why you'd be putting a carbon square tube. I have seen people doing that like years ago. And I did see people saying about it is going to twist and flex. They're not as rigid as you think they're going to be. Will it translate into poor print quality? I don't know. There are certain things where it's like, yes, on paper it's worse, but in practice it doesn't actually matter. It might be one of those things, but I haven't messed with that. I don't know why you'd be switching that out. I doubt you're going to see much of a difference going from an aluminum extrusion in terms of like print quality to a carbon fiber tube. Personally, I probably wouldn't be messing with it. All right, 83D says, are you going to be adding the Tough Extruder V2 to your Ender 2 Pro? Yes, that's right. One of my videos that'll be getting recorded this week. Saying, okay, so you'll have to remove your handle to do the extruder hitting it, just letting you know it'll hit it. Oh, like if you're at the max height, I could see that. One easy way to work around that would be probably just to print a spacer equal to the height that it's going to come up and hit. But I appreciate the heads up. So if that's the case, I could just design either a whole new handle or just a simple spacer to make it go up. even though the Z-Rod, like, goes into the handle, it just flops around in there. It's not actually guiding it, so getting rid of the handle really isn't going to do anything. But I appreciate the heads up there. So JT says, is there a point, or sorry, this is coming through weird. It's got like a bunch of letters. Hang on. Where is this? Oh, what point is there to putting a plated copper heat block on something like the Micro Swiss all metal hot end? Basically in any printer hot end, if you put a copper block on there, it's just going to give it a lot more thermal mass to retain heat. It's not going to hurt anything. If anything, it's going to make your performance a lot better. Might make your heat up time slightly longer because it's got to heat up a lot more mass. But the general reason people put the copper blocks on is they hold the heat a lot better. I'd also recommend, if you do put a copper block on there, to also put a silicone sock on there as well. And if that's the same size block, like the size and everything, as the stock Micro Swiss block or the stock Rally block, we do actually carry socks that'll fit that. But in general, in general, the copper blocks are going to give you more thermal mass, so you can theoretically dump more heat into the nozzle, so you can get a little bit faster. A little bit faster heat, not heat up times, what's sort of what I'm looking for, faster flow rate. So there's more heat, more mass in the block. You can melt your plastic faster, is what I was trying to get out there. So let's see. Emerson Carter, when will the TH3D Easy 3 be available? I don't know what you're referring to. I'm going to assume you mean Easy Board V3. We do not have any plans to make an Easy Board V3 at this point. We're going to keep running the V2 as long as we can get parts for it. I really don't know in terms of what else we can add to the machine. We can, the idea of doing a 5-driver board, just because the market size for that is so small. It's not worth our development cost to do so. And the EasyBoard V2 covers, the majority of people who are going to want a board for the printer. And that's where we need to focus our time and attention, is like the majority of what people are going to want. And the majority of people use 4-driver machines, X, Y, Z, E. And even if you have 2 Z motors, you can run 2 Z motors off of 1 driver, which the V2 already supports. Let's see here. Siri Reviews Products. Any more printer roasting sessions? We are overdue for one. I'm actually going to make a note right here in my task system to schedule one of these, because we should do one before the end of the year, because it's almost October already. Speaking of like things in the end of the year, I'm wondering who's watching right now, who's actually going to IRF, because my problem right now is no one that usually helps us out in terms of running the booth, in terms of employees coming with us. Nobody is available that weekend, so I don't even know if we're going to actually go. I originally wanted to go, but everybody that was going to be helping us backed out, and I cannot run a booth with just Krista and I, especially since, Krista's involved with TH3 on the marketing side of stuff, in terms of answering questions and chatting with people, that's, about the products. She's not as well versed as other people are that normally help us. So I'm wondering if we just kind of sit this one out. Now, we're still a sponsor, we'll still be present there, but I'm just wondering if we even bother going, because if I can't have help, and we're basically going to be at a point where I can never leave the booth because we don't have enough help, it's not going to be very enjoyable, to be honest. Let me see. I was making a task for, Roast Me Stream. Let me do that. Roast Me Stream. And let me put that in there so I don't forget. All right. I'm just checking the chat here. Let's see here. Yeah, because the thing is, like, most of the other people I've talked to about going to IRF, they're not going either. So it's kind of like, I don't even know if it's going to be worth us making the trip, because MRF is about 2 hours from us. IRF, because we'd have to drive, is about 10 to 12 hours. So, yeah. Let's see. Mariah Wade said, I placed an easy ABL on my Ender 6, but the 3D printed bracket covers the tiny adjustment screw on the side. Is that normal? So I don't know if Creality is doing slightly different variations on where their hot ends are lining up. But in general, if any of the mounts cover the screw, what you're going to want to do is adjust it and then put it into the position to be. So what I'll usually do is I'll loosen the bottom nut up, basically mount it per the guide. Once you have it mounted, your top nut will be in the position it needs to be to stop it from going down too far. Loosen the bottom one up, adjust the little screw, drop it back down, and then keep doing that until it triggers at the right height. Basically, you want to get about for the 18 millimeter sensor, you want to get about 2 millimeters higher than the nozzle and calibrate. So basically, when the nozzle is 2 millimeters above the bed, it's triggering. So, and then if you have a 12 millimeter sensor, the Easy ABL Mini, that's going to be roughly the same, except you're only 1 millimeter higher than the nozzle and still a 2 millimeter distance of the sensor triggering when the nozzle's off the bed. So I will make a note. I think Tor's watching here. I haven't seen if he popped in. He usually is. Tor's one of our support guys here. But Tor, if you're watching, maybe put that on our list to revise the Ender 6 mount. Mariah, if you're still watching, would the mount need to come down or go up? Because I have it on, well, I don't have the stock one on mine anymore. But that's the one I designed it on, and when I designed it to not cover the screw, but I'm sure there's slight variances in the hot ends in terms of where the nozzles are sitting, which is probably why some people have said it covers the screw and others don't. But again, the easiest way to do is install it per the guide, and then when you get to the calibration spot, just loosen the bottom one up and basically, okay, I'm not triggering, pull it out, I'm going to turn it a couple turns clockwise, put it back down, okay, I am triggering. Yeah, so, but anyways, okay, Tor is here. Yeah, so Tor, see if we can get that updated in the STL pack, and then updated in the print farm side, so we're sending out the latest ones. So, all right. But okay. So Superconductor says he's got a BMG clone extruder. His motor gets really hot on long prints. What current do you recommend to run cooler and still print reliably? So that answer is not as easy to answer as possible, because it depends on your motor. Now, for a pancake stepper, I'll usually run about 700, 800 on the current. Now, this is in reference to if you have a board that's able to be controlled with your LCD, so 700, 800 milliamps. Now, and if you have one that requires manual adjustment, what I recommend people do is if it's too hot, lower what's called the VREF, which is going to require you to physically adjust the little potentiometer next to your E-driver on the board. And we do have a video on our channel showing how to do that. And it's the same process for every board that requires manual adjustment. The only difference is that some boards, when you turn the potentiometer clockwise, it'll increase it, whereas others it'll decrease it, and vice versa. Some, if you turn it counterclockwise, it'll lower it, others it'll increase it. But basically what I usually do is if it's running too hot, I'll lower my VREF by 0.1 volts, run a test, and the thing is you have to find a happy medium between motor heat and between losing steps, because if you're losing steps, that means you don't have enough current. And this will kind of parlay into, I think it was Mariah Wheat made a comment about she's got the Tough Extruder V2 and saying it's skipping steps. I think you were also asking about the Ender 6. I'm assuming yours is on Ender 6. If so, if you're still using the stock motor, that stock motor is not good for geared extruders. You're going to want to switch it out to a pancake stepper, which we do carry. They're like $15. Because that motor is just too big. There's actually a video on the channel where I talk about the problems we're having because I put the V1 Tough Extruder originally on my Ender 6, which now he has the V2 on it. I actually changed it out because I wanted the latest one on there. But the V1 was a geared extruder as well, and it would not consistently extrude with the stock motor, and the board, just because the board is running the Trinamic drivers with them stuck in what's called stealth chop, which is a low torque mode, that motor just doesn't work well. And even the stock extruder I was losing steps with, So the solution was to switch out the motor, the giant motor they put on, which just looks like, oh, this is a big motor, I'm getting a lot of torque. It actually doesn't. It does not run correctly. So swapping that out to a pancake stepper is what I would recommend doing, because I had the same issues with the stock extruder and our tough extruder V1. The V2, I already had the pancake on it, so I didn't have any issues with that. But in general, if you have a printer that's got a really big motor on the E for some reason, because the manufacturer was trying to make you think that you were getting a really strong motor when you weren't, switch it out to a pancake. Pancake steppers are very good for geared extruders. Now, there are people I know that run them on non-geared extruders, like, the little basic red ones, like, you'll see on the Ender 2 here, but I personally don't use them on non-geared extruders just because they usually don't have enough torque to keep up with a non-geared extruder. The benefit of a geared extruder is that it's multiplying the torque through gearing, so even though the pancake stepper has less torque, it's being multiplied. Now, why Creality's big motor just still falls short, I think it's just that it requires so much current to drive that big motor that because of the combination of the stepper drivers they're using on the E driver, and the mode they're in, you're just not going to get enough torque out of it. So that's what I did to fix mine. There's actually a video. So if you look on Ender, I think it's like Ender 6. I think it's like bigger isn't always better. I'll see if I can find it really quick. Let me see. TH3D Ender 6 motor. Yeah, Ender's. Yeah, I posted it a year ago. And I'll post it in the chat here. So there's a link. But yeah, once I switched out the motor, all my issues with lost steps went away. Every single one. So you're not alone there. But luckily it's a quick fix. All right, last couple of questions and then I gotta go switch out that AC unit. So anyways, new pup arrival date, end of October we're it's looking at. So yeah, Remo will be having another friend. So finally, and we're getting a puppy this time. We tried doing a rehome / rescue, whatever you want to call it, and he was just too he had too many issues that were going to require a lot more time than Krista and I have to deal with. So starting fresh with a puppy from a local person here that she knows. So yay, we'll have a puppy on stream in a month. So in a little over a month. I think we're getting him on the 28th or the 29th of October. So right after they're 8 weeks old. So yeah, so Hella J says, looking to get a large printer. Are the CR10 upgradable are the CR10s upgradable like the Enders? Your thoughts on the CR10 Max or the S5 or the Ender 3 Max Neo? So CR10 Max, don't get that. If you want to modify it, there's nobody that really does anything aftermarket for it, including us. It wasn't a very popular printer, so you're not going to find a lot of aftermarket stuff. Now the S5 is okay out of the box, but you're going to want to put a Keenovo heater on it. Expect if you can get an S5, you're going to want to do stuff like putting the Keenovo heater on there. You're going to want to upgrade the nozzle to a 0.6. I mean, you got a big printer. Why would you not want to be able to print faster on it? 0.4 is really small for that printer. You can run a 0.4, but this is just my personal experience because I've built about a dozen S5s for people. I don't have one personally, but I've built a lot of custom ones. And basically the upgrades we do is we'll put like our easy board in there. Auto bed leveling's a must. Solid mounting the bed, putting an AC bed on there. But I don't think you can still to this day, I don't think you're going to find a better bang for the buck, even after putting, the couple $100 worth of upgrades into it, than the S5, if you can still find. I don't know if Creality's even still making the S5. I'm sure you can probably pick some up used if you can't. But yes, the CR10s are insanely, the original CR10 series, the CR10 Mini, the CR10 S4, the CR10 S5, and then the same model numbers just with CR10S, like the CR10S, the CR10S Mini, the CR10S S4, the CR10S S5. Those are all very upgradable machines. Now, their naming sucks, so don't be confused, because like the CR10 Max, even though it says CR10, it's a completely different animal, and there's not a lot of crossover in terms of parts with the original CR10 models, if that makes sense. So I wish they would stop reusing model names, because it just doesn't make sense. So anyways, all right. But I personally, if I wanted a big build volume, I'd go with the S5 and upgrade it. That's my recommendation. I would definitely stay away from the CR10 Max. The CR10 Max, like I said, there's not many upgrades out for it. Okay, Emerson Quarter says, check your text. Oh, I saw that. I've been busy today. Yeah, it'd be nice if we could do our own printer. We are kicking around the idea because we are working on the Mercury 1 stuff with Fabrico, kicking around the idea of basically, selling the Mercury 1 kits that we've gone through and made sure, there's good documentation and we've qualified all the parts and the hardware kits and everything. But also then offering like a full kit, as in like we are basically going to make our own Ender 5 frame to go along with the kit. So basically it's a full Core XY kit. The main issue here is we're a very small business and we don't have a ton of people. So we have limited resources in terms of development. So, and, we thought about like doing a Voron rebrand, but the Voron is just very complex. And I'd like something a little simpler if we're going to sell like a DIY kit printer. And I think something like basically remaking our own Ender 5 frame to go along with the Mercury 1 kit. Basically like, here's the kit if you already have Ender 5. And then here's a full kit with a frame and all the other electronics and the hot end and everything to go along with it. It's kind of what we were thinking. So yeah, not enough time in the day, but we're slowly chipping away at projects here. What about solid mounts for the Ender 7 bed? It could definitely use some attention. I'm going to look at that on mine. Like I said, so my plan here is I'm going to wrap up the Tina 2 tomorrow, and then I'm going to do the Ender 2 Pro on Friday, and then the Ender 7 is going to go on my bench, and that's going to be my weekend project, is getting that. Basically, if I get one good solid day of working with a printer, I can usually knock out firmware and whatnot. So, Sinister Fury Gaming said, is there an easy fix to Ender 3 not seeing end stops on Octopus V11? If it's anything like their SKR ones, which I would assume they're reusing it, I know there was some batch issue where they used too low of a what's the word I'm looking for? So on your end stops, you have what are called pull-ups, meaning there's a little resistor that connects to usually either the 3.3 volt or the 5 volt rail to pull the voltage up to that voltage. So, let's say your end stops are open, depending on what kind of end stops. Let's just say we're using normally open ones. So let's say your end stops are normally open, meaning when nothing's touching the switch, the 2 pins are disconnected. So that IO pin for the end stop would see, 3.3 volts if it's got a pull up there. The problem is I have seen where they've put too low of pull up. So let's say it's supposed to be a 10K resistor and they put like a 1K resistor on it. So a lower resistance. The switches are not able to pull that voltage down to 0 in order to get the pin to register that the switch was pressed. Maybe somebody is getting deja vu with me talking about this, but I remember there was an issue with those. There were some batches with the SKR. I think it was the 1.4s or the 1.4Ts, but basically the resistors were the wrong value and people were having issues with the end stops triggering. The thing you could do is try to use a non-filtered IO pin. Those boards luckily typically have extra IO pins that don't have any pull-ups or pull-downs on them. That you can use and just tell your firmware, hey, I want to use this pin instead of the normal end stop pin. We can actually look here, and this will probably be my last one. I kind of like deep diving on this stuff because it shows you guys like kind of an understanding of how this stuff works. So I think they posted the schematics and stuff for their for the Octopus. So let me see here. Hang on one second. All right. Let me see. Big Tree Tech. All right. So this is their 1.0. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like they're 1.0. I'm assuming it's probably going to be under here. So let's see what they have in here. Okay, so these are their schematics here. So let's see. Okay, so this is a diag. Let's see. Diag. Okay, so it looks here, so on the X stop, they've got VCC 3.3, ground, and then their X-Min. Where is X-Min going? Do they have them labeled on here? Where do they have these labeled? Motor driver. The first time I've looked at this schematic, so let me see. So you can see here, this is the pin. So you got your IO pin, you got your voltage. So it looks like they're going up to 3.3. But sometimes there's a pull up on here. So you can see what I mean by this. So you can see here for the power detect, it looks like they have 3.3, and you see here is a pull up. So they have a 10K resistor between the 3.3 and the signal pin here. And it looks like, and this is just on the power detect. So this is like their power resume one. And there's also a 100 ohm resistor between the IO pin. It doesn't look like these have pull-ups on them, because looking at the other ones here, the WiMAX has a pull-up. Muster right here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this isn't. So here, they have X-Men. So they do have a 10K pull-up on here. So they have a 10K pull-up here. So there's a 3.3. It looks like they got a little filter cap here, a 0.1 UF filter cap going to ground. And then it's going through a 100, I'm assuming it's a 100 ohm resistor. It says 100R. I'm going to assume that means 100 ohm. So basically, if this is not actually a 10K, as in if it's a 1K, like we were talking about earlier, you might not be able to pull this down to get a low enough voltage. You could find where R17 is on the board. I'm trying to see, what is this here? Let's see what this looks like. So to figure out what that is, so we got all of our like end stops and everything here. You got to kind of cross-reference this stuff. So just for example, so X stop. So J27 is X stop, and its pull-up resistor should be, wait, X stop, Y stop. Oh, X-Men. Okay, so X-Men. So if we want to check the pull-up resistor value, like you're going to have to measure this to make sure it's actually the correct one. So J27 is the plug, and X-Men, and that would be R17. So we look on here. So J27, R17 is probably going to be in this vicinity, which is right here. So if we see right here, stop moving around. Why is this being weird? So you see R17 right here, where my cursor is. You would want to take your multimeter and measure across the two solder pads here and see if this actually reads 10K ohms of resistance. Now it is in circuit, but in my experience, typically you can take a measurement and it'll be close. So if this reads like, you know, 5K or 1K, then that's probably the issue. I mean, it's not getting pulled down strong enough. The other thing is there might also be jumpers too, because you can see here, there's these are the diag pins. So I'm assuming this goes to the X-Men pin. So that's what I think this is here. The diag is for, I believe it's for the sensorless homing stuff. I'm not, again, it's not a board we use with, but anyways, this definitely has a pull-up. So where I would check, knowing that they've had issues with these before, is check to see if these resistors, and you can see they're all labeled, so it looks like it's 17, 18, 19. Check to see if they're actually 10K ohms. If they're not 10K ohms, that's probably the issue. And I'm trying to think, you could remove them, like literally break them off, but you'll probably break other stuff off because they're so small, so packed together. But according to their schematic, it should be a 10K, and a 10K pull-up is normal. Usually you'll see for pull-up resistors, you usually see 4.7 or 10K. So yeah, but they do provide the schematics for their stuff, which is good. So you can do troubleshooting like this. And usually their boards do require troubleshooting like this because they're not without issues, given their track record of things. So, well, that gave you a little bit of information to like figure out what I'm talking about. Hopefully I wasn't talking in circles and it made sense. So, but I will wrap that up. Let me see if there are any questions while we were asking. There were not. Luckily, it looks like today's a slow day. So I'm gonna go get the parts out of storage, and we're gonna go fix that unit in our shop. So I don't know if Remo's out here. Remo, are you out here? Did you get taken outside? Remo! Oh, he's here. We'll give him his dingo stick since he was a good boy. Can we sit? Yeah. Can we sit? Sit. No, that's not sit. 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 Shake. Nope. No. Sit. Shake. Good boy. Close enough. All right. Well, I will see you guys. I will see you guys later. Sorry about cutting the stream off, but gotta take care of things. So I will see you guys on the next stream. And as always, happy printing. I'll see you guys later.